China has called on the US to stop looting Syrian resources, with Beijing also slamming what it calls Washington's double standards on human rights.
U.S. troops still occupy Syria's principal oil fields and wheat-producing breadbasket regions. The U.S. Army's plunder of Syrian resources has aggravated the humanitarian crisis on the ground. Some angry Syrians have complained that the U.S. came for profit and would leave when all profit is gone. They say the U.S. presence in Syria itself is a type of terrorism. The U.S. claims to hold itself to the highest standards on human rights and rule of law. But what it did in Syria is clear evidence that these standards mean little to the U.S.
This comes after Syrian media outlets reported on US convoys allegedly smuggling Syrian wheat, oil and military equipment into Iraq. Tens of thousands of barrels of oil are said to have been stolen from northern Syria, where US forces are based. During his time as US President, Donald Trump admitted that the country's military presence in Syria is only for oil, contradicting official statements from his own government, which maintained that the remaining American troops were there to fight terrorism. Meanwhile, during his recent trip to Tehran, President Vladimir Putin reiterated that the US must stop its exploitative behavior in Syria and across the region.
Russia, Iran and Turkey, despite our diverging views on what is happening on the Euphrates, have a shared position that the U.S. must stop stealing from the Syrian people. They must stop taking oil from there, and they must withdraw from the country. We believe that in order to achieve long-term stability there, control over the entire territory must be transferred to the official government in Damascus, under the control of the armed forces of the Syrian Arab Republic.
Well, independent journalist Vanessa Beeley says the US actions in Syria are nothing short of theft and piracy.
I think it was only 2 days ago that 40 oil tankers were seen leaving northeast to Iraq, and from there, of course, they are sold predominantly into Israel. The Syrian people are living under some of the most barbaric sanctions that we've ever seen in history, that also even affect countries that are coming to the assistance of Syria to rebuild civilian infrastructure. So we have sanctions, we have oil theft or oil piracy, we have the burning of agricultural crops and the occupation of agricultural areas by US proxies. So it's not only oil and resources. Turkey is cutting off water. So there's a hydro hegemony war going on in the northeast also. So effectively, the US occupation is totally preventing the restoration of Syrian society. It's preventing the flow of Syrian resources to Syrian people, right? And so the US occupation must end for Syria to be able to repair itself and to rebuild, and for people to be able to breathe.